Hi, this is Jeff Curto, and welcome to episode number 67 of Camera Position, a podcast about the creative side of photography. Well, I ran across a couple of great quotes the other day, and they came back to me while I was having lunch. Uh, while I was having lunch today. And the first one was from the great photographer Minor White. And I have an example of one of his photographs here, as well as this quotation: I am always mentally photographing everything as practice. I am always mentally photographing everything as practice, Minor White. And then, not too long after that, when I'd seen that quotation, I also saw one from Dorothea Lange. Now, this is one that I frequently use as a sort of beginner idea for all of the classes that I teach. And I ran across this as I was getting my handouts together for the beginning of our fall semester. And I saw this one from Dorothea Lange. The camera is an instrument that teaches people how to see without a camera. So there's Dorothea Lange, and I've got an example of one of her photographs here too. The camera is an instrument that teaches people how to see without a camera. Those two ideas, always photographing everything mentally as practice, and the idea that the camera teaches you how to see without a camera, came back to me while I was having lunch. And I had made myself a nice little summer tomato and basil salad, and was sitting down having lunch outside on Labor Day here in the United States, and drinking a glass of wine, a delicious gnarly head Chardonnay. Uh, just a wine that I've been recently enjoying. And I realized that the scene in front of me was incredibly beautiful. And I sat there for a while, kind of just thinking about it and looking at it and imagining a photograph of it. I saw the light dappling across the tomatoes and the contrast of the green basil leaves and the red tomatoes and the sort of wonderfully oily, slicky bits of olive oil and balsamic vinegar, and the sun kind of dancing across the book that I'm reading. And, the whole scene seemed to really just be incredibly photographic, photogenic in some way. And for a while, I sort of realized I didn't need a photograph. I didn't need that photograph. In fact, it was simply the joy of seeing the beautiful tomatoes on a sunny day, and seeing the light coming through the glass of wine, and even the reflection of the blue sky in the base of the wine glass. All of those things were little details that I began to notice and began to look at as I was sitting there. And then I thought that was enough for me visually. But of course, because I'm a photographer, I went inside and got a camera and came out and made a series of photographs, one of which I'll show you here, of this tomato salad half eaten. And I think that what I realized as I was doing this is that, here we are as photographers feeling as though what we need to do oftentimes, and I certainly feel this way, is go off to a location, go specifically to make photographs. But as Minor White says, the idea of mentally photographing everything is practice. And Dorothea Lange reminds us that the camera is there to teach us how to see without a camera. And in fact, I think one of the great virtues of photography is that it teaches us to be better seers. It teaches us to be better viewers of the world and better seers of the world. And so one of the questions I began to ask myself is, how often do I continually make photographs in my head, even photographs that I am not necessarily going to make with a camera? And oftentimes we kind of leave that aside, we kind of leave that behind, but do try to consider the way in which your life is more richly visual because you are a photographer. I think many of us get into photography simply because we are visual people, but the idea that here we are thinking through the process of being visual and appreciating the visual beauty that we see around us, or the visual juxtaposition, or the lines, or the angles, or the edges of things, or the quality of light falling upon an object. So when you do see those things, hopefully you've got a camera with you, but even if you don't, make those photographs. Make those photographs in your head. I remember hearing Ansel Adams say one time that he had a lot more great photographs that he never used a camera for, photographs in his memory. So the idea that what we are about is being visual, and what we try to do with photography is replicate that experience of seeing ourselves, seeing the way we see the world, and sharing that with others. But a lot of times we don't need to share it. We simply need to appreciate it, to see it, and to understand that the qualities that we bring to our camera work are the same qualities that we bring to our visual lives as people in the world. So make photographs with your eyes, make photographs with your camera, and understand that those two things often are inextricably linked. A couple of housekeeping things here. First of all, I'd like to thank those people who have made donations using the little donation button on the most recently, Robert and Dalton and Lisa. Thank you so much. It's really just nice to know that you're out there and that you appreciate the content. And I appreciate your donations using that little button on the side of the cameraposition.com blog. And just logs you into PayPal, and you can make a donation. And likewise, I'd like to thank those of you who have purchased Camera Position t-shirts, wearing your Camera Position flag and waving it proudly. I appreciate that. And I know a number of you have gone out and done that, and I appreciate you doing it. And lastly, those of you who have had some trouble with the Camera Position podcast repeat downloading, golly, I have no idea why it's doing that, but it seems as though, at least for some people, unsubscribing and then resubscribing seems to fix it, at least temporarily. And if anybody is an RSS expert or a WordPress expert or a PodPress expert or any one of the variables, I would appreciate hearing from you if you know why it is that Camera Position continues to re-download for a number of listeners. So thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you again next time on the next episode of Camera Position, a podcast about the creative side of photography. Camera Position is a proud member of the Photocast Network, your photo resource in the potosphere. photocastnetwork.com